raising kids in Roatán, Honduras. So I first came to Roatán long before I had kids, and then I ended up having children in the United States and bringing them down to Honduras when my youngest was about 3 months old. So I did all the baby stuff, and then I had a 2-year-old as well. They are now 6 and 8, or almost 7 and 9. They are getting big very quickly, and raising my family here was never actually the intent. I was a single dive instructor, just living the dream, and I didn't realize how amazing this place would be to raise my family, and just compared to the United States. And I never mean anything negative toward the United States. That's where I'm from. It's where some of my family is. I just noticed there were drastic differences between when I brought my kids around places in the United States versus bringing them around places in Roatán or in Honduras in general, like flights or restaurants. In Roatán, my family is very welcomed everywhere and accepted. And actually, when you have a little kid, you get to cut in line at the bank, in the flight. You get a better seat on the flight that you don't have to pay for. You get a lot of little things that are really it's just culturally a little bit different and more family oriented than maybe the hustle and bustle of the United States. I know when I was a business traveler all the time, I didn't want to be around kids, and then once I had them, I was like, oh man, I could have been nicer. So, but going back to Roatán, it's just, I am so very grateful to get to raise my kids here. It's an experience that I never expected to have. And it's just one that was a complete, total kind of surprise. And I'm so grateful for it because how well my kids have adapted and how well they are accepted. And just they get to do more things with me, and I get to spend more time with them just compared to just the busier lifestyle or in. When I'm in the United States, I do work in the United States part of the time. I'm busy, I'm working all the time, and I don't get to see them very often, and they have very little freedoms. A lot of that is because of where we are. A lot of the time we are in Denver, Colorado, in the city right next to the Broncos Stadium. So if you know Colorado, you also know that my children aren't going outside without an adult. In Roatán, we live in an area. Well, we did choose to live in an area that it is a gated community. It's not next to all the tourist areas, and it is like they can ride on the streets safely. There's no cars going up and down because it's a gated community. So none of my neighbors are ever home, so they get to go up and down the streets. They can ride their bikes, they can ride their scooters. I don't have to worry about main traffic. And so they get a lot more freedoms when living here. And a lot of it's just because Roatán is very much a small town. It's a small island versus a bigger city. And if my kids grew up in Indiana like I did, they would have those same freedoms where you can ride in a neighborhood, you can hang out and, do what kids we used to do. And I kind of feel like my kids are getting that experience to go play in the dirt, go climb a tree, go skin your knees. And they get those freedoms. They get a lot of independence that they were not able to get with us living in Colorado. Now, if I was still living in Indiana, in Richmond, Indiana, or Liberty, Indiana, they would get the same freedoms that we get here, just because it's a little town and you know everybody. You know what they're going to get into if they're, going down. I used to think the creek was great. Now they get the beach. They obviously can't go to the beach by themselves because of safety hazard, but they still get to experience a lot of freedoms, which I wasn't really anticipating. And then if we talk about like their friends, it's very much a little town, and all the kids, they have different play dates in different areas. And I know the kids love to float at Sundowners. It's a great bar. We are responsible parents and take our kids to the bar. It's just, my kids actually love it. That my daughter loves the strawberry smoothies that they make and the chicken fingers, where we don't even have to make play dates. If you want your kids to play, like Sunday afternoon, everybody's floating, everyone's playing. Also Friday afternoons, the kids go to the beach because they get half days in Honduras. So it's just, you kind of get to know things. You don't always have to make formal plans, which I think is wonderful, especially working in real estate, where my day, anything can happen at any given moment. So I like the last minute, hey, you know what, we don't have any plans, let's go to the beach, let's go to this beach because this is where the kids go this day. Or if it's another day, we know where everybody's kind of going to be, and just if you're available, you go. And so I like that small town vibe. In regards to schooling with my children, there's many different school options here. We have chosen to keep them in a U.S. standard school, mostly because that is our option. There are 3 different U.S. based programs in Roatan. One of them, they've always been in one of the schools. This is their second school. We switched them because their friends switched, and we wanted to keep them with their friends. And what I've noticed is they do, the biggest thing is my kids have more homework here than they do in the United States. Classes is a little bit, it's about the same time, maybe 30 minutes shorter here. And they do have half days on Fridays compared to just a full-time schedule in Colorado, or everything I'm basing on is our time in Colorado. So it is going to be a little bit different from other places. I think they're doing just as well. They will learn a lot more Spanish. I wish they were learning more, but that's the only negative, is I wish they were getting more Spanish. And that's basically that comes to me as the parent, that I need to bring more Spanish into the household and make them speak it, and not allow, that's a me thing, not a Roatan education thing. So the schooling I've been very happy with. It's been very comparable. During 2020, the world got weird. So my family and I actually went back to the US for 2 years. My kids didn't skip a beat. Granted, they're in 1st and 3rd grade now, so it was like pre-K and 1st grade. So, but it's a very similar calendar and curriculum. So it's nice that you can bounce back and forth if you need to. And I don't mean bouncing your kids as well. We do what we have to do, but it gives you the flexibility to, if you did have to leave and go back to the United States, or going back wherever you're from, it's just a US standard. So it is an easy transition. And then the last thing that I get, almost last thing, the activities for kids. There are a lot more activities for kids now. It's growing every single year. There's more and more to do. Volleyball is big. Volleyball, baseball, soccer. You have computers, you have art, you have all of these different things that are really nice. You have Taekwondo is a big one. You have some horseback riding, tennis. If you go over to Pristine Bay, they have really great kid activities over at the beach club. So there's a ton of activities in the summer. There's dolphin camp, there's scuba camp for anyone 10 and up. There's so many different things to do. I love taking my kids to Gumbalina Park, seeing all the monkeys, seeing all the birds, and learning the history of Roatan. And they get to there's a lot for kids to do here. Group activities, solo activities. They're never bored and just like stuck inside because they're like, there's nothing to do. There is a lot to do. It's a lot more hands-on, getting your hands dirty, and it's just what I did when I was growing up as a kid. So the last thing, now we're on to the last thing, is safety. So I did talk a little bit about how we've chosen to live in the community that we live in, because my kids can ride bikes, they can ride their scooters, and they can just get that freedom. They can have a little bit of independence, where they can in many areas of Roatan. I know, it depends on your children, and I have a wild child, and so I have to, he's a wonderful soul. He just has to be monitored a little bit more than my other child. So I've got to rein in his freedom a little bit so he does not hurt himself. And that's why we ultimately chose where we did. And what's wonderful is you have so many different choices to where you can live or where you don't want to live. And it's not a one size fits all. So I think that is very, very important. And we chose this because it was best for my 2 kids, including the wild child's personality, where he can ride bikes. We're working on getting him to look for cars, but we're just gonna remove some of those variables so he can have a wonderful childhood, enjoy being a free soul before there's too much of just the burden of being an adult. So that, and in regards to safety, we do live in a gated community. So I think it's safe. We do lock our doors, but we really don't Well, we don't need to. We do, but we don't need to. A lot of other areas, I'd say lock your doors. When we live in Denver, I had my car broken into 3 times in a single year. Everything has to be locked at any and all times. We have cameras up. I mean, we have cameras up here too, but nothing happens. In Denver, we actually get a lot of interesting things on our cameras, and the car being broken in 3 times, I've never had anything like that happened here. Now we're comparing a city to a small town, and so, but it all kind of goes back to Roatan is very much a small town, small community, and I never have to worry about my safety for my kids. When they're older, they're not going to get away with anything. I kind of feel bad for them because, well, someone's always watching them, and they've probably known me a lot longer than they know my kids, so I'm going to hear about everything, even stuff I probably don't even want to know.